All right, so welcome to week 6 of CCC Confer, and let's go over the agenda. Whoops, sorry, went too fast. A few announcements and Chapter 9. Any questions there? Talk about Chapter 10, fine-tuning the project plan, and then we'll go over the next part of the assignment, which is the baseline and assign resources. So. And announcements, yay, Prop 30 passed. This means won't cut $1 billion from community colleges, won't have to cut classes for next semester. It's interesting, our department, we already proposed quite a few classes that we would have to have cut for next semester, and the whole school would have to have done that. We won't have to incur a $6 million cut for next year. So thanks for your support. Oh, that's right, yeah, okay. Let's see. Oh, the other announcement I have, and I'm not sure how many people would be interested in this, but a former student of mine she recently passed her PMP, so now she's a project manager professional, and she's going to talk about what it takes to pass the PMP exam. So I'm not sure if people might be interested in that, but that'll be coming up in a few weeks. So. So thinking we're shooting for the 28th on that one, so that would be November 28th. So, and I'll send out a notice. I need to confirm with her if that still works good. So. Okay, Chapter 9. Oh, by the way, I think there was a problem. And Secure, I'm not sure if you had a problem with trying to get into the discussion forum for this week, but there was a setting on there that I think may have, oh good, I'm glad that would be helpful. There's a setting on there that may have prevented people from getting into the discussion forum for this week, so that is available. So if people want to, it's not due until this Sunday, but that is available right now. So, Chapter 9 questions. I didn't get a chance to go over that last week because we didn't have our meeting because of the Halloween. So many people on Halloween. So I just wanted to know. Is everybody clear of what a contour is and which ones are the most common? I didn't know if people had any specific questions on that. It's just I don't know if how useful that will be for your own projects, but it's just a tool that Microsoft does have that's available, and you can you can use that for different things. So for example, if we go, I'm going to switch this over to and I haven't graded those yet because they were just submitted, but so Kira, tell me if you see Microsoft Project up and running. Is that working? Okay. So if we go to the View tab and then let me click on there, and then if we click over here to the right of the Gantt chart and go to task usage, and if we pick one of the people that may be involved, so like Tad Orman, if I just double click on that, it's going to bring up the assignment information page. And usually what people have here is under the work contour. Usually it's flat, but there are times where you may want the person to do most of the work at the more toward the end of the project or more toward the beginning of the project. And there's differing types. So you can do more like a traditional bell-shaped curve where you start off small and so forth. If you could do a turtle, let me show you kind of what that looks like. It looks more kind of like a bell-shaped curve, except it kind of levels off a little bit and then it peaks on the top and then it doesn't. So it doesn't have a gradual curve. So that's what it kind of looks like. There are times where you may need that to happen, but for the purposes of our project, that's probably not there. So as you can tell from the class that we expose you to all the different ins and outs of project, but where in real life you may not use it. It's kind of like most software, but so I'm highlighting some of the more key things that you're going to need, but contours aren't something that you will use. And actually, it might not be as needed. So I think Shakir, I think we're pretty good on assigning materials to tasks. Is that clear on that? And are we clear on on variable rates? Are we pretty good on that? Oh, hey Franklin, good to see you. We were just talking about Chapter 9 and about work contours, and that for the most of the time you're just going to be using a flat contour where it's pretty much the level of work is pretty much steady throughout the project. So. And now we're talking about material resources and assigning resources. So if I go to the resource sheet, we have the bound galley proof, which you give it an amount and $15. The book did talk about like gas and a variable rate. You can't put it in the resource sheet. You put that in, like if you were going to say $10 per $10 an hour, 10 gallons per hour, or something like that. You would excuse me, $10 an hour. So, but anyway, that would be kind of a variable. It could be 10 gallons an hour. So, and then you would put the cost per gallon in your sheet there. So. Yeah, someone made a case, though, I thought was interesting in the quiz, that using nails as a variable consumption rate. And I thought, well, that is possible, because you could have a nail gun, right? And you could possibly be doing 100 nails an hour with the nail gun. So you could be consuming nails, right? So that could be a variable rate. So. Because nails could be something you're consuming, and you could have a variable consumption rate for that material. So I gave them credit for that because I thought that was rather clever. So I thought, okay, that could work. So anyway, so but I think we're pretty good on when we apply those. Oops, sorry. When we go to assign resources and we want to put the galley, we're going to put the number of units it is, and whatever, it's 20, and we click assign. It's going to multiply that 20 times the cost that we had put in our resource sheet. So you can see that's $300. But we don't need to do that for this one. So okay, so. Anyway, so those are some of the highlights there. There's one other thing. Let's see. I thought this was a good view. So there's a couple things that you can do and or see in this view, and that's the resource usage view. And you can do a couple of things here. You can look at the form. If you go to Format, and you can look at their remaining availability. You can also click on overallocation and see who is overallocated. Remember that we're going to talk about that tonight. Is overallocation would be more than what? If you guys, we talked a little bit about it in the past, but normal allocation. Remember in project the way they do workload is based on maximum units, and a maximum unit would be 100%. And 100% would be usually 40 hours a week. So this person is working either more than 8 hours a day or more than 40 hours a week. So that's where you find that. And and you can see their availability, and you can see where they're broken into here, down into this. So you can see their different parts, or their specific hours that they're working. So anyway, that's a good view. Again, that's the under View Resource Usage, and then you can also change your time scale for this too. This is now in days. If you wanted to get a little bit bigger picture, then you can see that. And there's another view that I thought was pretty good too. If you go under Format and you go into Over Allocation, you can see that too. So let me go scroll the task, and you can see that there. Let's see. And then there's the Team Planner view, which is interesting because that also will show you in the red. Anybody in red is also over allocated, and this is where you of course can move things around. If you can see that people are, there's too much going on in one day, you can change. You can move these things around. Like I can take, if Carol is working on a couple of jobs, I can move them to someone who's not as allocated, so like June. Okay, so I can do that. Now some people like this view. I'm going to put it into weeks. It looks a little bit easier to find. So, all right. So that's how a chapter ended. This is a new. This Team Planner is kind of nice because it kind of gives you an overview of setting up your whole project team and moving things around for tasks and that. This is new in 2010. And it's only available in the Professional. It's not available in the Standard. So just wanted to emphasize that. So that's it for Chapter 9. Chapter 10, and I'm going to go take us back to our whiteboard. So tell me when you see our whiteboard. Is that there? Do you guys see the whiteboard here? Okay, so whiteboard showing up. Is that a yes or no? Whiteboard good? Okay, good. Okay, so on our project plan, Chapter 10 deals a lot with the whole thing of allocations. So they have three. Generally, there's three categories of allocations: being under-allocated, which means that you'll be working less than your 100% capacity, which is a 40-hour work week, so you might be working anything under 30 or 40. If it's like 39, that may not be considered that under-allocated. Fully allocated would be you work 40 hours in a 40-hour work week, and over-allocated would mean maybe you work 42 or 45 in a 40-hour work week. So now remember, the allocations only apply to work resources. And that could be a machine too. So if you're renting a machine, that could be over-allocated if you think it's over-allocated. So if you guys, when you did your project, and so I'm going to go, if you notice, you start getting the little indicator, which is usually the outline of our of a little person in red. And but I was wondering, I mean, people sometimes freak out about that, but you know, you have to decide, are there circumstances when the overallocation or even underallocation might be okay? Can you guys think of any when that might? Let's take overallocation. When might that be okay? If you have scheduled 40 hours, but then you have a 1 or 2 hour meeting in a week, even though the person will show up as over-allocated, is that necessarily a problem? Not much, no, not really. However, if the person is working 60 hours a week, then you could, of course, see that that could be a problem. So it's a good way, it's a good indicator, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in your resource sheet when you see over-allocation. So I'm going to go to the next page, Joe, because we'll talk about ways of dealing with that. And so, actually, back one. Under-allocation, when might that be okay? What if you're not doing the full 40 hours? When might that be okay? Maybe not enough work, right. There may not be enough work for you to do. So maybe the project is kind of tapering off. You finished a little early, and so people aren't going to have to devote as a full work week to that. Very good point. So, but we're going to focus a little bit on resolving over-allocations because that's generally a bigger problem. There's one way to do it, and that's manually, and I'll show you how to do that. And then another way is through a process that Microsoft Project uses, and it's called resource leveling. And it will, once you say level all, it will it will level all. So it does a pretty amazing job. So it might do things like it might delay or split a resource's work on a task, or in it to resolve the over-allocation. So that's on pages 222 through 225. And however, you got to realize that it most likely will extend the project finish date. So, you know, if the person is working 60 hours, you know, in that week, and you have that 20 hours to deal with, you're going to have to, you know, account for it somewhere. But it tries to, you know, match everybody who's available first, splits work, you know, as much as possible. So we'll see how that looks. So I'm going to switch us back to project, and tell me if you see that there. Okay, I'm gonna. I see it. Great. Okay, so if you go to, you know, your typical, if you go to View and you go to Resource Sheet, you can see that those in red are the over-allocated people. And if you go to your Gantt chart, you can see that you're going to see the over-allocated. It'll say this task has resources assigned which are over-allocated. So if you right-click that, it might, there's different things that you can do. You can say fix in the task inspector or whatever. So, but the book has you do something I think is a little bit better, and that's using, if you want to resolve it manually, you'll be going to the resource usage view, and we'll go to hide subtasks here. So and let's see, should we? Yeah, so the time scale is on weeks. So we can then look at let's see what would be the best view for this. Let's actually look at months for this one. And let me go and we'll scroll to task. No, actually that's maybe a little too much. Let's try weeks again. So and let's see. Actually, let's go to where she has let's see. You can see that right here she has the hour, and let me make sure I'm on the right. I guess we'll just use usage again. So here we see that she has an hour there. We see Haiti Marcos. You can see that he probably has some meetings here. We can see that we break this up into days. Let's go back a little here. Sorry. Okay. Actually, let's go back to Carol and there are things that we can, if we look at Carol's assignments on, let's go, let's see. Oh, I just lost my place here, so yeah, let's go to Haney again. Okay. And let's look at his date for August 19th. And I'm going to go back to weeks here. And this is probably a little bit better, where you can see, let's break it into days. So, and go back to August 19th. And so what's happening is that he has a few things that he is over allocated on here. So what we can do is just manually change this. We type in 4. Oops, sorry. Something is happening to my system here. Hold on, let me redo this. Okay, sorry guys, I'm gonna have to stop sharing for a second. All right, hold on, and let me get back to here. So just hold on 1 second. I don't know why it is just having. Oh. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm having some technical difficulties, guys. Okay. Basically, okay, let me see if I can get back to where we were. So, sorry. Hold on 1 second. All right. Here we go. Okay. Okay, now tell me if we're there. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, so let's go back. Haney Marcos, if you look back on here into the resource usage, you can see that he has, for at least Monday, the 20th, he has he's over allocated for those days. So what we can do is, probably what happens is he's assigned to a couple of jobs. So here is where we can just type in 4, oops, 48, 4, and and we can see down here on the create mockup, type in 4 there and 4 there, and now we should see that for that time he is okay. We also have an issue here where he has 16 hours in that day, so we'll just cut it down to 4. So this is a way to manually do this. You can either you can just go through here, through the resource usage view, and then you can start making these changes. You know, we have the same thing for Carol Poland, or we can start looking at all of these. So here is another one where he has 16, and we could just type in 4 for that task. And scroll down to where he is working 2 tasks of 8 in a day. So Okay, and this you could see the same thing for Jane. You could make those all 4, or you can. And what that'll start doing though is it will change things, but you have to kind of be careful because what it probably will do is extend the task too. So that's manually doing it. So that's going into resource usage view, going in and clicking on who is over allocated, looking at their tasks, and then coming in and changing that. So that's the manual view. The other view is if you go into the resource sheet, you still see that Haney and Jane and Carol are over-allocated. So here is where you can do what's called automatic leveling. And you go into the Resource tab, and if you click on Leveling Options, it gives you all kinds of things. So what you want is manual, because you don't want this to happen all the time. You want to be able to control this. And you want it to be on a day-to-day basis. And you want to clear these values before leveling, because you want new values each time. You probably want to, you can either level the entire project or parts of it, which gives you some control there. You don't want to click on level only within available slack, because if you do that, you may find that you're not going to be able to level much, because the project will not then extend the finish date. Leveling can adjust individual assignments on a task. Yes, you want that checked. Leveling can create splits in remaining work. Yes, you want that. You want to uncheck level resources with the proposed booking type, because that's generally something to do with the project server. So if you're working with a project server, that may be an option. And then level manually scheduled tasks you want. So once you do that, you click OK. Whoops, I'm sorry. You click level all. Notice that all of those have disappeared. Now, I'm going to undo that, and I want to show you something. So let's go back to the Project tab, and we're going to go to Project Information. And I want you to look at statistics here, because we have the start date as here and the finish date as 11/9/12. Okay. Now, if we level, so if we go, and I think our it's going to disappear. So let me close that for now. So 11/9/12 was our date. So if we go to leveling options, make sure those are all checked and click on level all. If we go back to our project information and go to statistics, it did manage to still finish on 11/9. So it did some very creative things. So it managed to work within the system to assign everyone the proper resources. But this doesn't always work out so beautifully, so just remember that this could change. So, all right. This is a great, the statistics sheet is really helpful for showing you, and this will be related to our next assignment, where you're going to talk about putting in a baseline and putting in your actuals. So I'm going to introduce that tonight. Next week we'll go over it a little bit more. But I'm going to bring us back to our next assignment. Hold on one second. So let me go back to the whiteboard here. So our next assignment is going to be creating a baseline and tracking actuals. So this is something that we started in Chapter 6, if you recall. So after I graded your project schedule assignment, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit behind on that, got a little bit caught up in been fighting, just fighting some funny kind of infection right now, so I've been a little bit down and out. But so after I've graded your project schedule resource assignment, which I should have done by tomorrow, you can proceed with the next assignment, which is you're going to create a baseline on your project. So you're going to review Chapter 6 on creating a baseline. And then after you created that, you could start tracking actuals. So remember, and so you'll review 6 and 12. So next week we'll start with 12, but you can get started on it now if you'd like to. So there's a couple ways that you can track actuals. One is the least detailed, and that was gone over. We went over that in chapter 6. So this is where you're entering a task completion percentage. So then there's, and I'll go over these a little bit tonight, and then there's more detail where you're going to enter the values for the tasks. Okay, so you would there's a couple ways you can do that one, but that was mainly in chapter in chapter 6. So then there's more detailed, which is entering values for individual work resources. And then the most is when you're going to enter the time phase actuals for tasks and assignments. So I only expect you to do A and B. So C is good, but it's not necessary. And after you enter the actuals, then you need to update your baseline. So, and then this assignment's due November 18th. So it's not a big assignment. You just are going to go in and go and look at the percentage of tasks that's there. So if we go to our, I'm going to resume sharing again. So if you remember on setting a baseline, you would just go here under the project tab, click on set baseline, and you would do it for the entire project, and you click OK. Now I want to show you what that looks like. Oops. Oh, sorry. I realized something. I am in here, so let's go back to our Gantt chart and do it. Let's go to project. Let's go to set baseline. And cancel. Sorry. Project set baseline here. Okay, and we want that to be okay. Baselines have been used on Wednesday on trial. Are you sure you want to overwrite this and say yes? And then we can then go to our project information sheet, and if we go to statistics, we now have our baseline information here. But since we haven't made any changes to anything, there's no variance, there's no difference between those. So, okay. Automatically assigned task. Secure, I'm not sure. It shouldn't. What I would recommend doing is, yeah, so it's okay, no problem. That's not going to be a big deal. So you can still go back and enter those values. I mean, remember before 2010, that's all you ever had in project was automatically assigned tasks. So you can go back and change those. So it's no big deal. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure if I did. Leveling. Yeah, it's, as you can see, the majority of these tasks here were automatically scheduled, and the leveling still applied, and they still were able. You still were able to finish within the project date. So project does this very complex system of trying to reassign things. So. Yeah, so they'll split tasks, they'll reassignment, and at the very least, they will, or at the very most, I should say, it will extend your project deadline. So, if you recall, under the task sheet, under schedule here, there's a, we can start saying if tasks are finished or not, and you can highlight all these, and then you can give it a percentage here. You can just say they're all 100%, and you notice that all these things get checked here. So and our staff meetings, we've done 3 of them, so you can say those are done too, and so forth. So you can start checking off things. So that would be an easy way. That would be kind of tracking the project as it is. Then there's a little bit more detail that you can do if you go to the View tab and go to Tables and then go to Work. You can start putting in the actual hours here that it took for each of the tasks. So that would be kind of the second level. All right. The third level would actually would be going to the task usage bar, and we'll go to Tables, and we'll go to Work, and this is where we can put in the specific hours here of how long each task took. Instead of the general part here where you're going to add it up, you're going to put it in here how long everything took. So you can do that. So you can say for Carol, she took this, and so forth. So you can even click on actual work if you go to the format and do the details there, and then you can see that each task is listed here, and you can put in the actual work that each person did, or how long each task took. So, okay, so that gets into be much more detailed. So, but so the only thing I would be expecting is at least that you created the baseline, you updated which things took what took longer, what didn't take any longer. You can put in the actual hours it took, and so forth. So anyway, that's what's going to be on for the next assignment. All right, but first make sure that you've handed in your project schedule first, and then I have to approve that, and then you can go ahead and do that. This won't take you very long. I'd say this assignment will probably take you an hour at the most. So, but it's still worth 15 points, and so it contributes to your overall project. So, and then you'll be continuously updating your project throughout the rest of the semester. So, all right. So that's where we're going, and then Chapter 12 is going to go into more detail about how to do more detailed tracking. We're skipping. I should notice. I should let you know we are skipping Chapter 11 next week because I thought it was more important for us to get right into the tracking part, and because I think that's an important chapter. So, taking us, any questions about that? Any questions about the assignment? And that's in your, that's due November 18th, and it's worth 15 points. So the homework for this week is to do, is to do Chapter 10 and submit that to the Chapter 10 Dropbox. Are you guys seeing the slide now? And then you take the quiz for Chapter 10, and then there is a discussion forum for, oh boy, sorry, this is supposed to be for week 6, so do the discussion forum. You should be able to get into it, and then you could read the Creating Baseline Tracking Actuals, but that's all in this PowerPoint, which I have in Chapter 6 too. And then if you haven't finished your project schedule assignment, you still can turn that in. If you need some help, let me know. So next week, we'll be skipping Chapter 11 and moving to Chapter 12. So, okay. So, any other questions for you guys? Franklin, you doing okay? You got your project updated, right? You got the new one. And okay. Well, I'm going to shut off recording, and then if you have any individual questions,